right, welcome to Convene with the Strategy Team. I'm Christi Farmer. You can find me on social at the Christi Farmer.
And what's up? I am Tameshia Weaver, and you can find me at The Brand Magnate on all things social.
So, Convene with the Strategy Team.
Well, wait, you know what? For real. We're gonna just go ahead and let this thing be known that yes, we are on episode 1. Christi, we made it. Like this is what we said earlier this year that we were gonna do. And like, how do you feel? Like let's just, because I'm a little nervous right now.
So let's talk about earlier this year. Like
Okay.
We have literally put this together in 45 days. Is that where we're at right now?
A few weeks.
Like a few weeks.
Literally, it was like the 1st of January.
Yeah.
So when I say I'm nervous, I'm nervous. But what's the thing that they always say? If you're going to do it scared, right?
That's right.
And that's what we're going to do.
And that's part of really why we're here is to help people where we first got started in our businesses. And now we are 6 and 7 figure earners in our business,
Right.
Respectively 6 and 7.
Let's get it.
And so we literally wanted to come together and share with others, because I don't know about you, but I've definitely been approached with people like, hey, so can we sit down and talk?
Right.
And so instead of having individual conversations, now we can come here and share things on a platform where we can feed other budding entrepreneurs, budding startups like this startup that we're doing with the podcast, as well as who else are we trying to talk to?
We're also talking to the ones who are looking to take their business to the next level, right? So if you are already in your business and you're looking to take it and elevate it to the next level, tune in, because this is definitely going to be the show for you.
Perfect. So we have to start and talk about
where do we start?
Where we started. Like, how do we even know each other?
Girl.
Because it was definitely before 6 and 7 figures,
Right.
for sure.
For sure. Straight in college. I started college at Georgia Southern University, and I think you went to, was it
Valdosta State University? Go Blazers!
Shout out. And so we were introduced through a mutual friend, still friends to this day. But I remember our early days with a lot of Club 112, Velvet Room.
Man, Velvet Room.
Baby, Atlanta, like
Compound.
We really showing our age, right?
Right.
We both just hit the 40-40 club.
40. Where my 40 ladies at?
Hey,
drop 80s babies. Drop it in the comments.
In the comments. I always say, put the little champagne. Like I like to do the toast, the champagne.
Toast emoji.
Right. So drop those in the comments, ladies. But yeah, so early days, we were doing a lot of partying. We were socializing. That's really what brought us together. And thank God for social media, because that's what kept us together pretty much. You know, you've gone your own separate way to grow your business, grow your family, and I've done the same. And so even with that being started, so what are you doing now, and how did you get there?
Okay, so what I'm doing now is I have a consulting business. So I have a successful business where I share accessories. Holla at me if you need some jewelry.
Right.
And I coach others on how to have successful e-commerce sales businesses, retail sales. Before that, I was an elementary teacher. Then I was a coach of teachers. Then I was assistant principal. And then my business started outweighing my assistant principal job. So I told them they can have their job back. And then I've grown my business since then, raised a family, married. I have a 16-year-old and a 2-year-old. So I don't know whose idea that was, but we know what got him here.
Right.
There we are. But it really started early on. I remember share your story, because that's literally what made me remember how I got started.
Yeah, so currently, right now, what I'm doing is I am growing a restaurant and retail delivery service. It's called Car Hops Delivery. I have a wonderful partner in not only business, but also life. And so with that being said, we started Car Hops Delivery in 2019, pre-pandemic. And of course, we were able to grow really quickly, like through the pandemic. Nobody was leaving their house to go eat. The restaurants was figuring out if they were going to close their doors. And so they relied on us to, keep the doors open. People relied on us to keep food, in their homes. We do grocery shopping for the elderly and other people throughout the community. So again, we were like one of those essential businesses, right? But prior to that, I always laugh when I tell people this, that I've had over 40 jobs, right? I'm only 40 years old, but I've had over 40 jobs in the history of my career. And I feel like at some point, through my career, I knew that I would never be a successful employee, right? I'm the type of person, of course, with having that many jobs, and I've only been fired twice. So I've left more jobs than I've been fired. I'm the type of person that I need to be in a leadership position, and I need to be able to have like influence the way I want to do it, not under somebody else's thumb, right? And so going back through the very beginning of when it started, my mom was in the military, and then my dad was an entrepreneur here in Atlanta. And I just remember when I was 12 years old, I started reading a series of the Babysitter Club book, right?
I remember Babysitter Club. I loved to read.
And it was a whole series. Like every time a new book came out, I'm going to get it. And I read it, right? Had my friends reading it. And so it dawned on me. I'm like, you know what? I got a dope group of friends. It was like 4 of us. And we lived on base. You know, being a military brat, we lived on base. And so being able to use our talents and our resources, we formed our own Babysitters Club. Now, when I tell you, this was not just going to keep the neighbors' kids. No. So my mom allowed us to turn her storage closet into an office. So we had files, we had desks, like it was just...
Wait, at 12?
At 12, okay. At 12. And okay, not only that, y'all, I'm the only child. So like I pretty much did and got whatever I wanted. So we turned the closet into an actual office. And then I pretty much, again, being a leader at the early age of 12, I gave everybody roles, right? So I was the head of marketing and sales. I went out and got the business.
Wait, now, did you know it was marketing and sales back then at 12?
Back then, I did not. Hindsight, looking at it now, I understand what we were doing. But then, we knew we needed clients, and then we needed to be able to fulfill the service. And we got paid, and we did what 12 and 13-year-olds did, okay?
Which is basically the basis of what we're going to be talking about. Like
it's business.
That is business, and that's the marketing, the sales, you got to be able to put your product or whatever you're offering in front of the right people. And you were doing that at 12.
And then you have to fulfill it. So not only do you need to be able to get the sales, you also need to be able to make sure that you can fulfill whatever that you sold, right?
Right.
And I just want to just throw this little piece in too, because when I tell you, we got scrappy with how it was that we found these clients, right? Y'all remember the yellow book, the phone book back in the day?
White pages and yellow pages. They got the big old thing that got delivered to the house.
They got delivered to the house every year, right? So what we would do is we knew that the white pages meant residential. We knew that we knew the particular streets that were in our neighborhood that was on base. And literally we went line by line, row by row, called each individual household, introduced ourselves, told them what it is that, we were looking for. And a lot of times they would say, well, you know what, you guys seem a little too young. Like, what, will I really want you, having watching my kids, right? Yeah. And so I would get my mom on the phone and she would seal the deal. And boom, I feel like the only thing that we didn't have was a contract, And
these days, a 12-year-old probably would need a contract.
You need a contract, right? That's definitely something I would advise anybody. But yeah, so, I got my feel of what entrepreneurship looked like at a very early age. And since I got that taste of it, I never looked back. So, I've had other jobs and I've tried to fit into the corporate world, but it just wasn't me. It wasn't me. So, that's a little bit about my story. And I hope that, as time go on, you guys will learn a lot more about us and get into our world and we can share a lot more. But I definitely want to make sure that we get to the meat of what we have going on today.
Yeah. And your story definitely reminds me of how I got started. Right. So 12 years old would put you at about 6th grade middle school. So I was a little bit earlier than that. And it came back to me when you were telling me about your 12-year story. I was in elementary school. And we lived in a townhome in Ohio. And I recently went back to go visit that. I had to go for a bridal shower. One of my consultants had her bridal shower in Ohio, which ended up being around the corner from where I grew up. Okay. So I went to go visit and it literally all flooded and came back to me because of townhome and the mailboxes were in a row. And so everybody would come home from work about 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. And so I set my lemonade stand up at the end of the mailboxes and at 5 or 6 o'clock. So they had to ride past me. And who's going to pass up a little kid with lemonade, right?
Right.
I was bringing in the money because I didn't want to ask my parents for the money because I didn't want my parents, and this has been a trend for me my entire life. I don't want anybody telling me what to do.
Right.
And the surefire way to keep people from telling you what to do is make your own money. So I bought my first car in college. I had a job in high school. We used to have to walk to, see, kids these days don't know anything about that. Having what they call Lyft and Uber. I was walking to the Winn-Dixie from my house when my parents weren't able to get home in time to take me to my job. And then I was the person who sold the goods in the school. So the neighborhood hustler. Yeah. I was the neighborhood hustler, the school hustler. So around after lunch filled everybody up. Before it was time to go home, the athletes who were still going to be at school, the cheerleaders who were still going to be at school, the smart kids who had their FBLA or all those other programs doing, were hungry about 2 o'clock.
Got the munchies.
Well, it was in my locker because I worked at the grocery store. So I was buying the honey bun boxes, selling them. It was like, 8 a box? And so I was making profit. I understood that from the beginning. But unlike you, I never thought that was going to be a full-time thing. I never thought entrepreneurship was going to be full-time for me. I did always feel like my career was never going to give me the lifestyle that I wanted. So I always felt like I was going to need something on the side because teachers, I loved what I did, but it's never going to give me the house that I wanted.
Right.
Teachers, the concept is in the old days, you get married. So it's always going to be a two income household.
Right.
Well, a lot of teachers these days, that's not their story. They're not 2-parent households. So you're living on a system that was meant to only provide part of the income.
Right.
But now it's needing to require everything for your house. And so I've always done hustling. And then it eventually became more than a hustle. But basically, when I picked up the concept you're talking about, understanding marketing is how I was able to take it from being a hustle to something that could feed and take care of my whole family.
I remember you told me another part to this story though, which was super dope. So while you were teaching, or I don't know if it was while you were teaching or you were assistant principal at this point, but you were actually like buying wholesale pieces, making your own jewelry and selling those. Like that part was pretty cool too, because it's like, okay, you not only took it to let me just buy and resell, you bought wholesale
from overseas. Right. I was buying it wholesale. It was when Hello Kitty was in. And I went and bought the resin pieces in bulk from some website over in China. They would ship it to me. I would glue the pieces on the backs on it, turn them into rings. I'd be at yard sales because yard sales were cheaper. You could go to the church yard sales and spend $50 for $25, or sometimes they were free to do the yard sale. So hustling has been a thing for me. That's making extra money was never a problem. The idea or the thought or the mindset or having the attitude that it could actually be more took time. That took time for sure. Right.
So when did you know? And I know you pretty much already said it, that you wanted to turn your hustle into your main thing. Like how did that transition happen? Like when did you know it was time for you to chuck the deuces?
When I woke up, so the school system here in Georgia starts at about end of July, early August. And so in October, I went to my principal and I said, I won't be back next year. And she says, oh, it's going to get better. And I was like, oh no, this has nothing to do, because I was in a really good, it didn't get any greener at another school. So it wasn't a matter that the school was difficult, the kids were difficult to parent. It wasn't any of that. It was that my business was matching my full-time pay. And I was like, I don't have to be here. And even when I went to her knowing that I was going to use my entire assistant principal paycheck for that school year was saved. I was literally living off of my business for a whole school year before I left, which is the advice I would give. People ask me all the time, when do I leave my full-time job? At minimum, some people will say have 3 months of your lifestyle put away, 6 months. I had my entire year, which was even more reason to leave because it wasn't a lot of money. And I was like, this is what I'm living off of? When I looked at, because it wasn't, I still put towards retirement. I still paid healthcare. So it was my take home that I was putting away for the year. That wasn't a lot of money. Like that yearly amount that they tell you, after everything comes out, you're really not living off a lot of money. And I realized that when that's all I had in my, not, it was enough in my savings, but it's like, that's all I got to replace. I will say this though, my plan was not that amount. I said I was going to leave when what I made for my business doubled what I made as assistant principal. So if I just throw out a figure, let's say I was making $50,000 a year as assistant principal. I said that when my business made $100,000, that I would leave. That meant I was bringing in $150.
Right.
I didn't wait then. I waited. I actually left because I was like, if I'm working full time and can make this much in my business while I'm working, then if I'm not working, for sure I can make more in my business.
So that was strategy within itself, because I'll tell you, when it came to me and
like,
how
I'm gone.
So no, when they say you get scrappy and you're building brick by brick, that's what I did. And I feel like it's running a business when you're doing that is so different than running it when you have like a cushion, right? And so it makes you, one, you have to go hard because that's the money that you are literally eating with. Like if we didn't make money, nothing was getting paid. True. So take Christi's point is that if you can do it the right way and create a strategy for yourself, take Christi's point and literally, stack, save, and then go forth and be great. But I am here to tell you as well, if that is not the direction that you can go, or that you're going, that, there is success on the other side. It's just a lot more work and it's a lot more sleepless nights.
And I can agree to that, because the one thing when I did leave, and I consider myself a very organized, have a plan. I mean, that's part of the strategy that I provide is two things that people typically have trouble with is creating a goal and then creating a plan for the goal. Right. It's like, I want to make 6 figures, or I want to make $5,000 a month, or I want to do this. And then there's no plan. There's no, it's just like you wake up and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do a little bit today. Right. I mean, I might do a little bit tomorrow. And then something comes, along, like a kid's sick or life happens and they drop it. The one thing I had to do when I was completely stopped, because it's different working for somebody, they have set due dates. Right. And they have set things. You're the one making the due date now. If something comes along, you decide you want to, I'm going to go hang out tonight, then you can be the one that pushes the deadline back. That also pushes your paycheck back too.
Exactly. Facts.
And so I think that's one of the things that we definitely want to share is the difference between a strategist and a coach.
Right. And let's move into that because again, so this is Convene with the strategy team, right? And we want to definitely make sure that you understand what to expect out of this. Okay, so how do you define? You define a strategist, right? Okay. And then I'll go into the coaching, because we had a really good conversation about this, and this was
and I'm definitely the one to tell you what I'm not. I tell you what
right.
I tell you what a coach is, and I don't do that.
Right.
So and I tell my team this all the time. Strategist literally gives you the strategy. So I think it helps to have a strategy when you go to a coach. I think it speeds up your process, your learning curve, because a strategist will say, like I tell somebody, if you know how much do you want to make? And then at the extra $1,000 a month. Okay, great. And what time period do you want to make that?
That's key.
You want $1,000 in 3 months? You want $1,000 in 6 months? And how much time do you want to spend building to make that? Because $1,000, if you want an extra $1,000 a month, I'm not going to say it's not going to happen next week. It could happen next week. Are you willing to lose sleep? Are you not going to talk to your kids? Are you willing to go get an Airbnb away from everybody? The time you wake up, the time you don't sleep, you living off of, it can be done.
Right.
And I can create the plan for it. Are you going to stick with it? And once the plan is made, when you're like, well, I'm having a hard time, with understanding why, then that's when you book a coach.
Yes.
Because I have the plan. I'm not walking you through the difficulties that you may have with your self-esteem, the difficulties you may have with talking to your husband about it, right. And we can even walk that into your plan. I can give you certain things, like you probably want to talk to him before you get to this step.
Right.
What to say to him? Talk to a coach.
Right. And so speaking of, so when it comes to coaching, like you said, it's more of I feel like coaching is more of a hand holding. So they will give you a plan, but they also will kind of help you back into that plan. Right. And again, Christi and I, you will probably be motivated and inspired just by what we do and what we say. However, we're not here to necessarily be your accountability partner.
Exactly.
We're not here to be your coach. Okay, so it literally is, we're going to give you the strategy, and then you have to take that and go forth and be great. And Christi, you said this last night. You were like, once the strategy is given, if you need to go get a coach to help you get through that, because, and we're going to go into this on the next episode too, but if you have to get over some of your own mental mind blocks and things that are allowing you to get in your own way, then that's where, you need some coaching to kind of get you through that. I was with a counselor, or a what do you call it when you go to your counseling sessions. I had it was a counselor pretty much. And this was, back, I guess, when I was really trying to figure out like what my purpose should be in life and all this. And I was kind of really getting down on myself. Like, I would go to work, I come home, that's pretty much all I'm doing. Like, I need some help. Right. And so I went through a few sessions, and then I quickly realized it's like, I don't necessarily need a counselor. I didn't need somebody to get me out of the rut. I just needed to know like a direction. Mm-hmm. I just needed to know some steps to take. And then I've always been competitive. I've always been, my own inspiration, my own motivation. So I just needed, again, the steps. And once I got the steps, I never looked back.
Yeah.
And I've gone through several businesses now. I've built several businesses. And luckily, and finally, Car Hops is the one that actually I was able to stick with and I'm able to see through. But like I said, as far as me getting started and moving myself in the right direction, I didn't need help with the motivation or the how. I needed the how. I didn't need the why.
Right. And something I found, because people, I actually like detest the word motivation. I really do. Like, how do I motivate my team, or how do I stay motivated? Whew. And I'm like, you don't need motivation when it becomes a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. When waking up every day and pursuing and going after what you desire, your goals, it's a lifestyle. Like, I don't wake up every day and say, you need to get up, and you like, of course you talk to yourself and speak positivity and like things like that. But it's my lifestyle. I don't think twice. Like, I automatically just go into building my brand. I go into I don't mean like it's marketing. I just do it. Right. It's like, I don't know any other way, but it's actually a habit I created early on. Like how people wake up and brush their teeth. Mm-hmm. Like, I wake up and make my morning post. Mm-hmm. And I know by lunchtime there's something to reply to. Like, it's just something that happens.
I asked you this the other day. I was like, I literally thought you used like a scheduling tool or whatever. But again, you have to know what works for you, right? So even when it comes to providing strategy, you still have to know what works for you. So if the strategy is post one particular piece of content per day, some people may need to schedule that thing out, right? Or some people, like you, can wake up and do it every day. You just really, as long as it get done, is the end goal, pretty much.
Right.
As long as it gets done, and as long as you're not stressed out about it, I feel like it just has to get done.
I think some of the things that we've mastered is knowing who we are. Right. Knowing ourselves. And people will come to us and they want us to give them the answers of who they are. Mm-hmm. And the first thing is, who are you? Yes. Like, knowing who you are. And that's some of the things that we're going to be talking about. Would you like to go in or start off with some other things that we're going to be sharing? Like, why should they be, like, this is us, but why should they be tuning back for some more episodes?
Let me tell you, because if my phone rings one more time, literally, at the point I am in life now, I don't necessarily, my circle is very small, right? Mm-hmm. So the people who have access to me, they're going to call me and ask me about advice, about strategy. Most of the time it's about business. Sometimes it's going to be personal, but for the most part, it's about business. So I'm very strong when it comes to the operational side. I love building teams, and I can't wait till we get really into the team building portion of it. But when it comes to operations, when it comes to pivoting, because we talked a lot about pivoting a while back and knowing when to pivot. This is a little bit different time now that we're in. We're in 2023, right? And, a lot of businesses were birthed through the pandemic. Mm-hmm. But now a lot of business are actually either struggling or they're closing. And these are like, big brands are trying to figure out, okay, what's going to be our next move? Are we going to pivot or are we going to close our doors? I just read an article that was saying, a lot of big brands, I think it was like Walmart and Target, it was like they were naming some big box brands that were closing their doors and like shrinking how many stores they had in the marketplace due to reasons that it's just a different time now. And so even with that, like I know you were sharing a story about one of your pivot moments through your business, where you went like you knew that you had to start going live more, and like talk to us about that part.
Yeah. And I think it's important what you were saying too about, and that's one of the things we were talking about, like the word pivot and what does that mean?
Right.
Or mindset and what does that mean? And I definitely went through a pivot with my business. And the beauty, I think what we bring to the table is we were winning prior to the pandemic.
Right.
And that's a big thing because there's a lot of people who won really big during the pandemic and they're going to come teach you all these things, but we're not at that same time. So the key is winning before, winning during, and now winning after. Because those are literally 3 different temperature checks in anybody's business. No matter if you were providing a service, how you provide the service had to change during the pandemic. If you were meeting, like I had a counselor, and so we were first meeting face to face, and then the pandemic came, we had to meet online. She had to pivot or lose a paycheck.
Right.
And then now she has to decide how she's going to continue, because some people still want to do online, even though they have the ability to go into her office. Will she now say, oh no, I'm only doing face to face? Or will she say, okay, now I'm going to do both and then keep clientele? Like that's a decision that has to be made in this time. When the pandemic came, I was nice and peaceful at my house. My kids were going to school. My husband was still in the military. It was like me kumbayama and bringing in the money all at one time. And then them kids came home.
Everybody was in the house.
And I have a 2,000 square foot home. Very pleased with it. At least I thought I was when it was only me there during the day. And now everybody was there. That was a pivot for me. So then I went and decided, because I still wanted my brand to win. So I went and got a 3-room suite.
Okay.
10 minutes from the home, ran my business from there. 2-year lease. The lease was up, and it was like, what am I going to do now? Do I stay there? Which I really don't need to, because in my business, I was doing Facebook Lives, which was really great. Everybody was sitting at home. I don't know where they were wearing our product to, because they couldn't go nowhere, but they were definitely buying it, and I was shipping it. But they were sitting at home during the day. So I could go live during the daytime or at 2:00 in the morning, because they were at their house. They were still tuned in. Now people are back to their regular lives. They're not showing up how they were at 12 o'clock in the afternoon or 2:00 in the morning. So I decided to pivot and build a building in my backyard. So now my office is in my backyard.
Right.
So all those different changes, which kept my money flowing from before, during, and after, and problems, which is a problem, and solutions.
Right.
What I found is real leaders, and whatever kind of, I tell people all the time, the one leader you are responsible for, if it's not other people, is you.
Yourself.
You're responsible for leading your life. And so you have to be a problem solver if you want your brand to grow. And that's what I've learned to do in my business. And like I said, the pivot, originally, Facebook Live came around about 2015, I think was the year. And I was used to doing everything I did at vending events, at home parties, at my job, at my church, owning my backyard. And then I would see people going on live for an hour or 2 hours, and I'm sitting there counting their money.
Right.
Like
running it up.
Sold. You had to pack up no product. You didn't have to go pay a vending fee. You were at the comforts of your house. And I was like the OG in the business, like, my money good. I don't have to do that. And then I was like, oh, but they winning. So I changed that baby up real quick,
real fast,
and got into the game. And so that's you can't be stubborn. You can't be set in your ways. You have to be willing to move with what's going. You have to be attuned to what's going on around you. That's definitely a big thing. And that's some of what we'll be talking about and sharing with you in more depth. When not if, because you're going to. You tune into us here on Convening with the Strategy Team.
I love it. And I think to wrap this up, because I know, we have a lot more in store.
A lot more.
But one of the main reasons that I came to you and asked, I was like, one, like you were the perfect person. I feel like you're the yin to my yang when it comes to just business and strategy, right? We're like-minded, and we run two totally different types of businesses, but we both have like some dynamic stuff to add to what we're going to do, right? But one thing that I realized, I would go to YouTube. I'm big on YouTube. I'm big on podcasting. I'm big on what I'm feeding my soul, what I'm feeding my spirit. And I would go and I would type in like business strategy, right? And it was just no one that I could really relate to. No one that looked like me. No one that was talking the talk and like really walking the walk and really breaking things down how I needed it to be. And so I was like, you know what? That's definitely like, there's a market wide open for us, right? And so I'm so excited about what we're coming together to do. We're convening, we're coming together. And not only are we going to come together, you and I, we are eventually going to open this up and make sure that we can touch ladies on a more personal way too, right?
Right. Exactly.
So bringing you guys in and building a community around growing and keeping you in business. Like it just, when you look at the fact that 25% of businesses that start only get to about 15 years of being in business, it actually feels like a failure. It feels like the United States, and United States, we're big on commerce here. We're big on just
small
business.
Yeah.
And it just feels like somewhere, somehow, somebody is failing us. And so we want to just be one of those voices that you can come to, a place that you can go as a community and just make sure that, you're getting the information, you're getting the strategy, and you're being able to be set up for success.
Exactly.
So I feel good. I can't wait. Great. I cannot wait for more to come. I can't wait to meet people in person and know that we're changing lives, because we're already changing lives, right? We already have amazing teams. But to be able to do it on this level is going to be super dope.
Yep. So the next thing that we will share is definitely going in, because everybody wants to get to the money.
Right.
But we know before the money comes, your mind has to be right.
Definitely. Yeah. So next week we'll be talking about mindset and how to make sure that you are, you're set up for the success,
for the
wins and the losses. I mean, because, again, I don't even necessarily count losses or count failures as, what people call them. I really just know that they're stepping stones to the success.
Yeah, required for success.
Required.
All right. So definitely join us back here next week for mindset and money with convening with the strategy team. And make sure you hit that like, share, and all the things. Some comments down below. We want to know what you want to hear about, because our full year isn't out. It hasn't scheduled all the way out, and we will definitely change some things to fit your needs.
Absolutely. All right. See you next time.